Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us here at Cola Daily. My name is Amanda Cooper, and I'm so excited to speak with you both. Tell us about you and your journey here and for making history as the first woman, specifically woman of color, to be a State Farm insurance agent in Columbia specifically.
Well, actually, it was over 30 years ago, and I had what I thought was a real good job. And my husband was an insurance agent. And at that time, State Farm's posture was they would not hire someone who had experience. So therefore, he and his friends were pushing me to go ahead and start this journey. And like I said, I thought I was doing all right for myself. And so I kept resisting. I kept saying, no, 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 I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. So we had some really good friends in Atlanta that we would go to from time to time. And we just happened to make a weekend trip to Atlanta. And I was telling Brenda, that's her name, about what my husband was trying to get me to do. And I just didn't feel that that was something I wanted to do. And she said, girl, are you crazy? So she explained all of the different friends in Atlanta. Atlanta was a little bit more progressive, if you will, from Columbia. And they had a lot more African-American agents, okay, than Columbia did. And at that time, Columbia had no female African-American agents. There were only 2 in the whole state of South Carolina. So then I just decided, I said, well, if Brenda says, not if my husband says it, but if Brenda says it, I'm going to go ahead and give it a try. And so that's really how I got started. It was a decision that was basically not made on intending to be the first, because I really had no idea what the arena looked like at the time. But I quickly found out. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle because there, of course, were agents even that were somewhat resistant on my being appointed. So, but I made it through, and I just retired after 31 years.
So now one thing I find interesting about your story is you just kind of fell into it, as they say. You know, you hear these stories all the time, and usually when you fall into stuff is when you typically those people make history or they make an impact in that industry. Being a woman, and a woman of color specifically in the insurance industry, the first in Columbia, what were some of the challenges you had to overcome?
Well, the main challenge really was, I guess, peer acceptance. But the biggest challenge really was finance. There was, I mean, you did everything, things may be different now, but you did everything based on what you have and what you have access to. And honestly, there were no banks that would lend us or me any money, okay? One thing, because of the entrepreneurship of you're self-employed, okay, for one thing. And second of all, it had a lot to do, it didn't have anything to do with my credit, because in order to even be appointed, I had to have A+ credit. But it really had a lot to do with my skin tone. And I mean, that's how I grew up. I mean, it wasn't anything that I was shocked by. I mean, I grew up in the South, okay? I know about prejudice. Okay. And so therefore I really had to do it on my own. There were several paydays that my husband had to make my payroll because I just didn't make enough money. But I'll tell you what, one thing that gave me strength, and I remember it, and I tell people each time that I get a chance. There is a prominent businesswoman here in Columbia that came into my office one day, and she said, you know, we send our girls to college. We tell them they can do and be anything that they want to be. And then when they come out and start doing these things, particularly in a male-dominated world, we don't support them. And that made a profound impact on me. And that day I changed all my doctors, my dentists and everything to every doctor, dentist, that I could find. Okay. Because it's true. We have to support each other. And unless we do it, it just won't get done. And so that's the philosophy that I've lived my life, is that I will always pull someone up.
Wow. Well, it kind of set the stage for your predecessor, Miss Ruth Lee Israel. And I know when I was in your office that day and you were saying you needed to find someone to replace you, upon your retirement, you were very specific about it being another woman, and you found this gem. Ruth Lee, I know you're on very limited time. Can you share with us your story and how it feels to walk in the shoes of Miss Veronica Isaac?
Much thanks to Miss Isaac. I can remember our conversation from the beginning of the year. We had spoke prior to that, but this was earlier the year before, and we only had one conversation and that was it. So she reached out beginning of the year. She's like, hey, what are you doing? I let her know I was working at another agent's office, because at that time, my prior agent that I had been with for almost 6 years had retired. So I transitioned into another agent's office. So when she called me to see what I was up to, she was very vague. Hey, something's coming up. I would love for you to, put your name in the pot for it. And I think I turned her down the first time I talked to her. I wasn't ready. We had some transitioning going on at home. And it was just, I didn't think it was the right time. And she reached out again. We had another conversation. And when you're interviewing for an agency, a lot of things have to line up. And there were some things that financially just wasn't lining up, that I felt comfortable with going into it. So I said, no, I don't know. So the third time she called, I said, Miss Isaac, I will do it just for you. And then not only that, for me, it's legacy. I'm from Haiti. My parents are immigrants. I'm an immigrant, and my parents grew up poor. So my biggest thing is, as I'm growing in adulthood, I want to be able to set myself up to a point where not only can I take care of myself and my family that I'm building, but then also my parents when they can no longer provide for themselves. So State Farm just allows me that opportunity to be able to do so. And had it not been for Miss Isaac, being persistent and, pushing me to go after it, I don't know that I would be in this particular location with this particular opportunity. So much thanks to her. Super grateful for her.
Veronica, I was so excited to share this opportunity with our audience, because I think that when we talk about finances and when we talk about women, I think it's important that we do highlight women who have helped other women to fulfill the purpose that she was brought for. What would you say women leaders, because you are a leader, need to bring to the table when it comes to leadership specifically that's different than men?
Well, and particularly what is different women from men as far as leadership style is concerned, we bring a certain amount of empathy to every situation, okay? But we also have to provide firmness and directness. Like, it is not unusual for someone to, when I was actually in the office, for someone to walk in, and if I had, for a long time, I would not hire a male staff person. And that was by design, okay? And the reason being is because when someone who doesn't know me, they first walk into the office, the first assumption is that male is the agent because he's a male. Okay. But I got over that. And everything, because you do have to, you have to assert yourself. You have to be confident in yourself, because there are instances where people will think because you are of color, you are not as qualified. You just have to make sure that what you project is really who you are, and not who they think you are, or not who they are trying to make you out to be. So, I just think that you just need to, you need to have confidence in yourself. You need to show that confidence. There are plenty of times where I would be the only one in the room, and it can be a little intimidating, because not only am I the only Black female in the room, sometimes I'm the only Black in the room. Okay. And it can be intimidating, but I never, ever let that intimidate me.
Wow, I love the way you said that. You said you have to project who you are and be who you are, be who you project who you are. That's very powerful. And it does increase your confidence when you understand that because they say energy is neither created nor destroyed, it's just transferred. So that's science. For those who don't know, your daughter, Tameka Isaac Devine, ran for the City of Columbia mayor's in the mayor's race. Do you think that that is evident of everything that you've poured into her, just kind of like the fruit of your spirit in a sense?
Well, yes. But one thing that I can say, and I don't know if it's because of what me and her dad, the example that we had through the years, etc. But I am very, very impressed with her. I mean, it sounds like, gee, you know, that's your daughter. Of course you will be. But seriously, she speaks well. She speaks off the cuff. She is well versed in so many things, you know. And so I'd like to think that, yeah, she's from this tree, you know. We try to expose. I have 2 children. We try to expose them to everything. My mother was a waitress at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. And I was raised by my grandparents, and every summer we'd go to New York, right? My mother would take me, my sister and brother. I mean, we were like tourists. I mean, she would make sure that we saw everything. I remember going, it sort of tells you how old I am, but I remember going to the World's Fair when it was in New York, you know, stuff. But one thing she always told me, she said, take your children out to eat every now and then so they will know how to act. Because I guess she, you know, being a waitress, she'll see people come in and the kids are all over the place and whatever. And so even though in early years we had no money, but every Friday night we went to Pizza Hut so that they would learn. So, you know, that's just one little thing that you'd be surprised how little things kids learn from, and they use that to improve on what they're doing.
What would you say to your younger self when you first started in insurance and walked in that office 30 years ago? What would you say to her right now, being well, the journey you've already taken?
Yeah, well, the thing is that, well, now that I've been through it all, and I feel really good on what I have done and the people I have helped. And all of it is not necessarily good. I've had to pay death claims. I've had to pay death claims for children and everything. So I think I would tell myself to be a little bit more stronger, okay? And to make sure that you do your ultimate best to try to educate us as women to know that, look, like Ruth Lee said, you know, people think of insurance and they think of all the things that the government make you have. Nobody makes you have life insurance, okay? And I have personally been within my family a part of passing the hat, okay? Because the person did not have insurance, okay? But I know that if I never give up, okay, in trying to educate someone, and I feel that I didn't, maybe sometimes I may have let up a little bit, but I think I would tell my younger self is don't give up, because you are doing a service.